It's so hot that I can't even stomach wearing a tie. The real estate market, on the other hand, not so much. Inventory levels are at the highest we've seen in 5 years, and even the home price index is reporting a modest decline in prices. Finally, the question is this just a typical summer slowdown, or are there tougher times ahead? Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me for the July 2024 edition of our Greater Vancouver Market Update. If you're looking for unspun, unbiased analysis of the housing market here in the Lower Mainland, you have come to the right place. So if you find this content valuable, please click that like button down below, help the algorithm, and be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. All right, let's get into the stats, starting with last month's sales figures, which came in at 2,418 transactions. Now, this represents an 11.5% drop from the previous month. As I've mentioned previously, though, sales figures typically peak in May, so a decline in sales volume should not be too surprising in a vacuum. From a historical perspective, however, the June sales volume is 23.6% below the 10-year average for the month. So, although it's not surprising that sales are falling off at this time of year, it is telling that we're well below where we're used to seeing them. Inventory, on the other hand, continues to rise, with a total of 14,182 total listings on the market in June. This represents a fairly modest 4.3% increase from May, but again, this is a time when listings should also be tempering off. So any rise in inventory at this time of year does begin to raise a few eyebrows. And with sales slumping and inventory rising, our months of inventory has now risen to 5.9, right at the cusp of that benchmark number of 6, which is often considered buyer's market territory. Remember, these are only general guidelines, but typically speaking, 0 to 4 months of inventory is considered a seller's market, 4 to 6 is considered a balanced market, and 6+ months of inventory is considered a buyer's market. And I say that these are only general guidelines because this isn't an exact science. This does not go down to the 0.1, 0.2 difference. It's about leverage. And I've been saying for quite a while now that leverage has been on the side of the buyer for quite some time, even when we were in the high 4 to low 5 range of MOI. So at this point, there is little denying that we are in a full-blown buyer's market. This means lots of options on the buy side, lots of leverage on the buy side. If you find issues on your inspection, there's a very good chance that the seller will remedy them in order to get the deal done, or at the very least, give you a price reduction so that you can take care of it. And there are some great opportunities to negotiate favorable prices. And when the market hits this sort of listing to sales ratio, we generally see a downturn pressure in prices. And after months of me harping on the fact that prices have actually been falling for several months now, the board's home price index finally agrees, showing the first month-over-month decline in prices since December of last year. What's interesting is that this apparent sudden crest in prices coincides perfectly with the Bank of Canada's first drop in interest rates in 4 years. This is not a coincidence. The Bank of Canada knows just how catastrophic a rapid decline in home prices would be to many Canadians. So this is further proof that they can see what is happening with the housing market, especially in the major markets like Vancouver and Toronto, and they feel that now is the time to reverse course in order to avoid a potential downturn. But as I always say, stats only paint part of the picture. To hear what is actually happening in the trenches, stay tuned for our editorial segment called Boots on the Ground in a few days on our various social feeds. And if you're watching this on YouTube, that portion of the update starts now.
These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do.
It's the age-old question. How's the market? Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it because I never do. Things are slow. Yes, this is a great time for buyers, but for sellers, these are very stressful times. Us personally, we're sitting on the highest number of listings that we have ever had at any one time in my 14-year career in the business. And the hard part is that many sellers are in a very difficult position where they need to sell and simply can't unless they take a major haircut on their property's value. So I'm having very difficult conversations, human conversations, almost daily. And it's difficult because in many cases, the option to fire sale their property isn't really an option either due to financial reasons. From talking to other agents, Open house traffic is also very spotty. On an opening weekend, you're lucky to get 10 groups through over the 2 days of opens. I mean, if I were to take an anecdotal guess, I would say 7 to 8 groups over 2 days is about average. That's pretty good, actually, unless you're extremely aggressively priced. And yes, there are one-offs where a property gets way more traffic than an agent's expecting. But like I said, those are the one-offs. They're far and few between. Now, look, a lot of this has to do with seasonality. The best time to sell a home is always in the spring, when everybody wakes up from their winter slumber and pays off those pesky Christmas credit card bills. Then the next best time is the fall, after summer vacation and kids going back to school. And summer and winter are a very, very distant third and fourth. So what can you expect in mid-June and early July when the market has already been soft for all of spring? We're at the point where some sellers have decided to try and grossly underprice their homes just to get attention, just as a pure marketing strategy, and still only get 2 to 3 groups at an open house. So when things like that happen, it tells me that it's not just a matter of unrealistic expectations or not being priced fairly. Buyers are simply on the sidelines trying to time the market and trying to enjoy their summer. I've been at this for 14 and a half years. I've seen several market swings. I've seen several cycles. And when times like these come along, it feels like it will never end. But the reality is, and like I always say, life goes on. People can only hold off for so long. They still get married. They still get divorced. They die. They have kids. And from my experience, the longer this goes, the crazier things will be on the other side, because of all of those folks that wanted to do something last spring but are now holding off will be competing with the people who will be naturally entering the market whenever it does turn around. And when that happens, it happens fast. And ever since our population really started to rise in the mid-90s, this has always been the case. So why would it be different now? All right, that's it for me for this month. Thank you for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you right back here in about a month's time. Take care, everyone.